Samoa Joe is a terrible person who does horrible things to his opponents for mere sake of, a little bit of a hand up in competition, and still manage people around the world find something lovable about me. So I just try to take a little bit of that and inject it into Sweet Tooth because we have a lot of similarities in that way. We may do horrible things, but we have the best of intentions.
This is the first time I'm speaking to you for this acting gig. Are there any classic wrestlers, maybe like Doink the Clown, who influenced this character?
I don't know about Doink. I think the mischievous of Doink. I think when you look at the insidious way Doink conducted himself, I think you can see some similarities. But I would say Sweet Tooth's a pretty unique character in the psychotic clown realm.
So I have followed your career over so many years, and you have pretty much been, the tough guy all throughout. Do you think there is a possibility of you maybe bringing this character to the ring at some point in the future?
I say never, but at this time there are no current plans.
How did you go about making this character? I mean, he is the bad guy, and he is also supposed to be likable. How did you maintain this kind of balance while playing the character?
I think the same way I've done it in my career. I mean, let's face it, Samoa Joe is a terrible person who does horrible things to his opponents for mere sake of, a little bit of a hand up in competition, and still manage people around the world find something lovable about me. So I just try to take a little bit of that and inject it into Sweet Tooth because we have a lot of similarities in that way. We may do horrible things, but we have the best of intentions.
Was there anyone else on set who was maybe a wrestling fan who maybe marked out after working with you?
We had a lot of the cast and crew. I mean, they have a kind of a working knowledge of wrestling, especially the crew. I mean, they knew it was up. Louisiana is a very big market for the wrestling industry. So, a lot of our crew were very excited to have me on set, and we're awesome and more than happy to help me bring Sweet Tooth to the streaming screen.
There's this whole narrative about today's wrestling and video games. Were you a gamer, and were you familiar with Twisted Metal? And what's your whole perspective on, wrestling and video games at this point in time?
Absolutely. I'm a gamer. I love and enjoy video games. Professed that several times in many of my interviews and many of my media forays. But Twisted Metal, very much a part of my childhood. I mean, I think if you own a PlayStation when it first came out, when I was a kid, you definitely played Twisted Metal. You had all your friends on the couch, and you're doing your best to blow each other up all around the world. So Twisted Metal was definitely something that I grew up playing and grew up loving as a franchise. So when given the opportunity to be Sweet Tooth, I couldn't help but jump out.
Amazing. Now, you and CM Punk, you guys are embroiled in this kind of heated rivalry. Will you bring the fact that both of you are also established actors to this rivalry at some point?
I mean, I bring a lot of things, a lot of rivalries. I mean, right now, I don't see much beef in us being actors. I mean, that's not something to beef over. If I got a beef with somebody, then it'll be for very different reasons. But other than that, I mean, it's just it's good to know that many of us are kind of branching out into other forays into media and finding success. And Twisted Metal is definitely something that I'm very, very happy to be a part of.
This is I mean, the themes are so serious on this show, but it is also so lighthearted, right? And that is not a side of Samoa Joe we often get to see. Did you have to get out of your comfort zone to play this character?
Yeah, I think when you put on the mask, it kind of it helps you project yourself into whatever you're deciding to do. And I think it was very much that with Sweet Tooth. Once the mask went on, it was very easy to shed my other identity and kind of get into the character and have some fun with it. Especially when you're, groomed up in a big leather tactical harness, you got a machete on one side. It's pretty hard not to feel like you're about to go crazy and shoot up a parking lot of other drivers.
Okay, I think I'm running out of time. What is one good thing about Anthony Mackie? What is it like working with him? How do you keep up with that kind of thing?
I had a fantastic time working with Anthony. Obviously, when an actor with his pedigree takes the extra time just to care about the production and be there in support of his other actors, I mean, it's a rare trait that you see on set, and Anthony portrayed that in spades, and it was a blast working with him.
Do you think Rosa and Dwight would have gotten along in real life if they had scenes together?
I think they'd either be best friends or mortal enemies.
Amazing. Is there an art to throwing the axes like you did on the show?
100%. The art is you throw it and the camera makes it look like you really threw it. That's the art. It's not me, baby. That is incredible camera work. And it is a little of me learning from our stunt coordinators how to do stuff so that it looks really realistic. I'm not a great aim, but I look like I am, which is all you really need.
So about that, I mean, this is such a serious show, but you are obviously known for being such a great comedic actress. Did you deliberately try to keep it a little lighthearted?
Well, I mean, I think the show lends itself to a lot of Black comedy. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to be a part of it was because it was going to be produced by Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, who are behind Deadpool and Zombieland, and they have this really dark tone in their comedy. And to me, that stuff is so funny. And then reading the scripts that Michael Jonathan Smith wrote, our writer and showrunner, he just gets that tone. Like I just love his sensibility of comedy. It's so silly. One of the highest compliments I can give comedy is when I am laughing and saying, God, that's so stupid. And that's the kind of stuff I love. So it's not that I had to necessarily try to make anything lighthearted, because it was really just all there in the script. I will say MJ is a phenomenal collaborator with actors. I found him to be really fun to pitch jokes to. And if something wasn't quite working or making us laugh as much as we wanted, he was happy to hear multiple pitches and let me be creative and let me do stuff. And so that I really enjoyed working with him in that way. I just think he's such a phenomenal writer and showrunner.
Amazing. And what was it like being on set with an actual pro wrestler? What was that like?
It was so cool. I mean, Joe is the nicest guy, which is so weird when you see him in this like incredibly iconic costume and mask, this like just horrifying look to this character. But Joe is the nicest guy. He's also incredibly, incredibly talented. He's a master at what he does, which is physical storytelling. And that's why so many people love him in the wrestling world, because you can see the story that he's telling from a long way away and right up close. And he's just like incredibly good at moving his body. He's just a master at it. And the nicest guy.
We mentioned the comedic aspect of the show, but Thomas Haden Church, he makes the show feel a little serious at times. And you play off that. You become serious in those dramatic scenes. What was it like to play off him in those scenes?
Thomas Haden Church is an incredibly talented actor. I mean, he's been, nominated for Oscars. Like he's phenomenal. And I just tried to bring my A game to match what he was doing. He's really, really, I'll say this. He plays this like cold, unyielding, post-apocalyptic lawman, and he's terrifying. Again, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Just lovely to chat with, but absolutely terrifying when you're doing a scene with him. And so, I just kind of sank into my character's story, and I didn't really have to do much else. Just trust the story and trust like yourself and your instincts. I think one of the things that I really like to do in acting is to trust my instincts, to trust my sense of play. And I know that sounds weird because play, you think of fun, right? But when you are acting, it's also play. So as long as you're just trusting your sense of play and trusting that you know enough about your character and about the story and about your backstory, then whatever happens with this actor in this moment, it feels really real and fresh. And I think our hope is that that is caught by the camera, and then that is translated to you, the viewer, and that you feel kind of swept up in this, story, and that you don't want to stop watching.
Could you tell us more about your character in the series?
I play Agent Stone. He is really the only representation of an attempt to bring or to restore law and order back to the world after the Y2K absolute crushing implosion of the power grid and the monetary system and all the whole technological aspects of society. Everything just crashes, and we revert to I don't know, prehistoric, other than the motor vehicles, and apparently the availability of fuel, but how the world has just become so isolated with these super fortress cities, and including one that Stone has built himself. But he takes it upon himself to go out ostensibly in pursuit of John Doe and quiet, but it's really to bring law and order from Topeka, Kansas, all over the country. And he has bands of other, soldiers, officers, agents, whatever, that are out there satellite, doing their own kind of strong arm, violent form of justice.
Absolutely. I think what makes your character such a convincing villain on this show is that he believes that he's doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
Was that your approach as well, inherently?
Yes.
When you... Okay.
Yeah, no, I never saw him as a villain, and when in my first conversations with Michael Jonathan Smith, the showrunner, but really the principal writer and architect of all 10 episodes, who also put together an array of really wonderful writers who captured the essence from the first to the 10th. But Michael, when we first talked, he said, what, I don't really think that Stone is a villain. And I'd read the first 3 episodes, and I said I couldn't agree more. In fact, I never even thought of him as a villain. He by virtue, and I don't know how many of you seen.
All of it.
Oh, you've seen them all. So
Yes.
You see like his backstory with young Stone, and how young Stone was just this guy, he has integrity as a law enforcement officer. He has a generosity of spirit. He's trying, whenever that crash occurs of the power grid, the monetary grid, tech grid, everything, he's not equipped. He's not trained, and he's not experienced enough to deal what he's suddenly thrust into. And then whenever you meet 2 decades later, give or take, you meet older Stone, myself, then you see a guy that has been really battle hardened, but no, he sees himself as law and order. He sees himself, and even though he becomes corrupted by the power that he really takes over, but he only sees himself as really as the ultimate good guy, that he's going to show the rest of this anti-society and this absolute chaos. He is the one that has the vision to bring it back to the center, as opposed to being so flailing and so defined by mayhem and chaos and murder and all nature of theft and drugs and everything. He's the one that's going to bring it back to the center of what his definition of peace and lawfulness are.